1st, so he's an April Fool's baby.
Ooh, so he was
Yeah,
your oldest. So
he was my oldest. Yes.
those of you that don't know, Jamarion Robinson was shot and killed by the police and shot.
Well, well,
Go ahead.
actually, they were.
I'm gonna
Well,
let you tell the story. Go
okay.
ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Are you ready for me to tell it?
Yes, go ahead. This broadcast, like I said, I wanted you to bring to light your son, like
Okay.
mother to mother. We're gonna talk woman to woman, mother to mother, but you
Okay.
can go ahead and tell us the story.
So, do you want me to actually tell you what happened to him that day, or do you want to talk a little bit about him first? You
I
talk.
want you to talk about what this is your time, Mama. I want
Okay.
you to talk about start where you want to start, and we're gonna
Okay,
go from there.
okay. Actually, I think I want to talk a little bit about Jamarion and tell you all who he was as a person. As I
Mhm.
stated, Jamarion was 26 years old at the time of his death. He was a student athlete at Tuskegee University. He was actually in his final semester. He was a biology major. He played football. He ran track for Tuskegee University.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to kind of share some moments, that I had with him or that, my family experienced with him just kind of growing up. I remember I'm thinking about when he was like 3 years old. My mom would take him to work with her sometimes. And, my mom is a nurse, so she would take him in, to work. And she said one day right before she went to work, she was telling my dad, hey, don't forget to pay the light bill today, because if you don't pay the light bill today, light's going to be off tomorrow. So, so Jamarian listening to that conversation. And so my mom had told my dad kind of like a couple of times she said about 3 to 4 times before she left the house, don't forget to pay the light bill, because if you don't, we're going to be in the dark tomorrow. And so when she took Jamarian to work, my mom coworkers were saying, what do grandmothers do? And he said, grandmothers bake cookies. And
Oh.
then they asked, what do grandfathers do? And he fold his arms like do it like this. He said, granddaddy's supposed to pay the light bill. And everybody just started laughing. They was like, "Oh, TV man," because they used to call him TV man. My mom and her coworkers and friends and stuff when she would take him to work, because he used to know everything that came on TV, what time, etc., etc. So it was like, "Oh, TV man, you are so funny," and they were just laughing, ha 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 ha, just laughing at him. My mom said he folded his arms and he looked at them and said, y'all ain't nothing but a bunch of pigs, pigs, pigs. He started calling them pigs.
Oh
And
no,
they were just like dying laughing at him. But my mom always, tell and share that story to her friends or what have you. And I also remember, during the summer months when he was growing up, so my sisters and I, we would send, we all got kids around the same age. They all grew up together. So we would send them to my mom and dad, fathers from Albany, Georgia, or where they lived in Albany, Georgia. And so we would send them there for the summer months. And so I remember one summer when Jamari is like 7 years old, my mom said, Jamari, I'm about to run to the corner store and get some, I think, milk. I'll be right back. So it was Jamarian, my other son, my nephew, and my niece. And at the time, my niece was like 2 years old, the youngest. She was about 2, maybe 3 years old, something like that. And so my mom ran to the corner store, but when she went to the corner store, she left hot dogs on the stove cooking. And so, of course, the kitchen, the water had boiled out the pot, and the pot started smoking. And so when he saw the smoke, he gathered all of them up and took them across the street. But the pot just really started to burn. And
Mhm.
so, but here he is. He's 7. He see the pot, the smoke in the kitchen. He knew to get them all out of the house, and
Mm.
he actually took them across the street to my mother's neighbor's house at the time. Um, I'm also thinking of another time when he was like in the eighth grade. This was eighth grade, and they were having like the eighth grade dance. They had like the eighth grade dance for the students to come to. So I called Jamari, and I was on my way home from work, and I said, you know, I'm gonna be there in a few minutes. I'll be there in about 5 minutes. So get ready. I'm gonna call you once I get outside. And then when I hung up the phone, I said, "Oh, I forgot to tell him. Make sure you brush your teeth. Brush your hair. I was just gonna tell him some pointers to do." And so I called him and I said, "I'm outside." And so when he got in the car, he was brushing his hair with his brush, and he
Mhm.
had on cologne. He was smelling so good, and I looked at him. He looked at me, and he just had a, every time you look at him, he was brushing his hair, and he just had a big old Kool-Aid smile on his face. And I said, I was gonna, call you and tell you, don't forget to brush your hair, make sure you brush your teeth, stuff like that. He said, oh, I remember to do all that. I brushed, and then he just looked at me as he was stroking his hair, and he was just smiling. And then and I said, oh, baby, you smell so good, because he on cologne. And it was just kind of funny to me, because I was like, my baby growing up, you know what I mean? And then I remember, because he played football from like, grade school all the way to college. I remember, when he was in the 10th grade, we had we we had a party for him, basically stating, because he was the oldest of 8 grandchildren. So we would just let him know that, job well done, that he was doing an excellent job, continue the good work. And I just remember him standing up and saying, I promise you all, I would make you all proud. I'm sorry. It just made me just, he just came, his face and, just the things he said that day. I just remember him standing up saying, I promise you all, I would make you all proud. And that was like his 10th grade year. And I remember when he went to his freshman year in college, I was so proud of him. His freshman and sophomore year here, he attended Clark Atlanta University. And I remember their first game of the season, they were playing Fort Valley University. And he played punt kick return. And so when they kicked the ball off, he caught the ball at the 95-yard line. And he ran it all the way down to a touchdown. And so he scored. And so that year he was named Freshman Player of the Year, at Clark Atlanta University. I remember, going to, like I went to every game he played from, grade school to college. I remember he would always look up in the stands for me. He would always look for his mama. And when he would see me, he would just like acknowledge me and let me know that he sees me. And so he would just always do me like when he look up there and he see me, he would just do me like that to let me
Give you
know
the
that
nod.
he see me. Or sometimes he would do like this on his helmet, like this, because we always had our little pet peeves, what we call each other. I would always say, that's my nose, or he'll say, that's my nose, or whatever. And so, but he always would like just acknowledge me and let me know that he sees me. I remember after the football games, like every football game, he would always ask one of his teammates. He would say, me and my mom getting ready to go get something to eat. Would you like to go with us? He would always ask one of his teammates, and of course, they always said yes. You know what I mean? And so, he was always looking out for, his fellow teammates just to make sure they were okay. And so I remember I would always take food, food to on campus they had a football house. I would always, because he went to Clark Atlanta University his freshman and sophomore year. I would always take them Popeyes or go by Publix and buy them potato salad, macaroni and cheese, and he would be like,
You
"Hey
was
y'all,
that mama.
yeah."
You was
He would
that
be like, "Hey
mama.
y'all, my mama outside." He would tell them his mom, his mom is outside, so they knew when I came outside to come get the grocery or something like that. Sometimes someone would be like, "Oh, my girlfriend outside, where's she at?" They would call me, their girlfriend or something like that. He would be just smiling or what have you. But those are just some, great moments, that I can think of. And even right before his death, I remember that summer, because I had been, I had been traveling a lot with work or whatever, and I just kind of wanted to, take some time off and be at home. So I was like, I'm gonna take a couple of months off, because I had been working 2 years straight, kind of like nonstop. And, the type of work I do, I'm an insurance adjuster by trade. We work 50, 60-hour work weeks. Excuse me. And I just was like, I want to just take some, I had just lost my dad. I just want to be at home because I felt like I was, just missing time, with my family, with my kids, with my grandbaby, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so I took a couple of months off, and during that time it was summertime. Jamarion was at home. One of Jamarion friends owned like a moving company, so he used to go help them move, throughout the day. And then once he come home, he would always call my sister because most time he would get home around 2 o'clock because they would leave early and start real early. And he would get back home between 2 and 3 or 1 o'clock sometimes when they're done early. He would always call my sister and say, because at that time my niece Alexa was 2 years old, and he would call my sister and say, I'm at home, you could bring Alexa over here. So he was like the babysitter all summer, kind of for my sister or whatever. And I remember the July 4th of 2016, my sister had a 4th of July cookout at her house. And so when we walked in and my niece saw him, and she was 2 years old, her name is Alexa. As soon as me and Jamarian walked in the house, she went, Jamarion! She was just so happy to see him. And he just picked her up and, started carrying around the house. And of course, she was like, I want some candy. And he was like, okay, I'll get you some candy or whatever, whatever. Those are just some great moments. Because my family, we're a close knit family. We go on vacation together like every year. We eat dinner together like once a month, things of that nature. So Jamarian comes from a very close knit family. I just remember too, every time Jamarian would see, me or my sisters or my mother, he always like pick us up, spin us around, and he always hugging us, squeezing us, or he would be chasing after us, trying to kiss on us, little stuff like that. My sister that would be running from him, as little things of that nature. But we had some like great, moments with him. And you know how sometimes people say, "Oh, girl, my son was so bad growing up," but I never. He was so easy to me. Like he wasn't hard headed. He was obedient. He was respectful. He was mindful. And I also remember in 2011, in 2012, I got laid off from work. He said school like a year to work to help me pay the bills around the house. So that's Jamarion Robinson, And I want people to know who he was as a person, because after he was killed, they tried to portray your kids as being, a thug, or, you know, my son wasn't a criminal, he wasn't a felon, he was a student athlete, at the time of his death. And I'm going to take you all to that time. I know on August the 3rd, 2016, my son had just contacted his coach at Tuskegee University and said, "Hey, coach, I just completed all my paperwork for school. Now I'll see you next week at football practice." I'm sorry that I'm so emotional. Usually I could just kind of usually I'm always just telling his story. I'm not really kind of talking about him a whole lot, but I'm kind of just straight to the point. But just kind of thinking about all the things he's done and, him playing football, all the accomplishments he made. And it's like I got trophies like everywhere in my house. And it's like, think about it. Playing football is, it takes dedication, it takes commitment. Think about it. He played in 80, 90, 100-degree weather at times. So it takes a strong individual. My son was a leader. He was not a follower. He was he, like I said, he was a biology major. To be a biology major, you got to be smart. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so going to August the 3rd of 2016, he had just contacted his coach at Tuskegee University. Say, "Hey, coach, I'll see you next week at school, because that's when football practice started, the following week. That would, like I said, would have been his final semester. But on August the 5th, he was over at his girlfriend's house that lived in East Point, Georgia. So he was at 1:15. His girlfriend said she had just left to go back to work. And she said when
Is this
she walked,
AM or PM?
this is PM. Okay,
Mhm.
so August the 5th at 1:15 p.m. She said she had came home for lunch, took a lunch break. She said she came home, took a nap. She said Jamarion was just watching TV. And she said he also had his earbuds in his ear, listening to music too, because that's what he would, do. And so she left about 1:15 p.m. on August the 5th. And at 1:30 p.m., her door was battle ram opened by a group of road police officers. And actually, they were U.S. Marshals. They were U.S. Marshals, and and we got a video. My investigator, retrieved a video from the shooting incident. So basically, once they bust the door open, they opened fire on him. You could hear them say, show me your hands," and then it went pow pow pow. You just hear the first sound of shots, and then you just start hearing them say, "Put down the gun, put down the gun, pow 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 pow." Pause. Put down the gun, put down the gun, pow 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 pow. Pause. Put down the gun, put down the gun, pow 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 pow. Pause, and then you hear pop, pop, pop. And with all that being said, my family and I knew from day one that, because when we saw the video, because they dropped the narrative, a false narrative on the news that night saying that a East Point man had a shootout with police today. So we knew it was a lie. But at that time, we couldn't prove it. We didn't have no facts. But that first week, I buried my son. And then the following week is like I went into motion. So taking you back to that day, after they burst the door open, they fired over 90 rounds at my son. He was shot over 50 times. Over 50 bullets hit my son's body. So my son only stand at 5'6", 150 pounds. After shooting him 50 plus times, someone stood over him. Well, you know what? Let me stop right there. After shooting him 50 plus times, they threw flash bang grenades that landed on his body, burning him. Somebody also stood over him and shot down into his body 3 more times. After that, they handcuffed him and drug him down the flight of stairs and dropped his body in his girlfriend's living room apartment, downstairs. He laid there for over 8 hours, no ambulance call, no medical aid rendered. Um, and after all of that happened, my mother and my brothers, my uncles, my aunts, they all immediately went to the scene, the crime scene. And so when my mom got there, my mom was like going off. She was like, "Why would you all do something like this?" And so some of the police officers, because there was like East Point police officers there too on site, so they started coming up to my mom saying, "Hey, I just want you to know I didn't have anything to do with this." And my mom said, "Anyone that's here on this property right now, you are all liable and responsible." And so she was like, "You haven't heard the last of this. This is not over with." And so my mom was saying, "Why would you all do something like this?" Da da da. So the GBI lady walked up to my mom and my two brothers, and the GBI lady said to my mom, "Well, we were looking for him from a week ago. He pointed a gun at a police officer and took off running." And then she said, "Well, here's a photo of him right here." And then my mom looked at it. She said, "That's not my grandson." And my two brothers said, "No, that's not my nephew." And my older brother said, "My nephew looks like me." And then so my brother flipped out his phone and he showed them a photo of my son. But that photo was probably about 2 or maybe 3 days old at the most, when my son was sitting out on the porch. He on a white beater. He had his earbuds in his ear and he was just like listening to music. Right? And so she asked my brother to airdrop her the photo. My brother airdropped her the photo. They took that photo, dropped it on the news that night, and said East Point man had a shootout with police today.
I'm speechless. They
But think
they
about
made him
this.
who they thought he was.
But even let's say if it was him, Are they the judge, jury, and executioner? A person is innocent until guilty, and their job is to assess the situation, de-escalate. You don't just come with guns blazing, and that's what exactly what they did. But think about this, if my family and I, if we wouldn't have moved forward, because that week we buried my son, that Monday I was at the attorney's office, and then the attorney automatically sent the investigator to the scene. When the investigator went to the scene, he just, saw the walls, where the walls were just, you know, you see like in the single digits as you go up the stairs, it went into the double digits, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, so on and so forth. And so he just was like, he couldn't determine what actually really happened. And so they started knocking on people's doors saying, hey, did you see the incident that happened last week? And of course someone went, yes, I recorded the whole incident. So with that being said, that's how we got the video footage of what actually happened. And so when the investigator got that, that's how he was able to put together like what actually happened. He said it's like my son's voice came on to him. He said when he watched the video, he said something said walk up the stairs. This is where I died at, because it was like a pool of blood. And he said something said cut the carpet out. He cut the carpet out, and that's where he found those slugs embedded in the floor that went perpendicular, like straight down to the floor, where someone stood over my son and shot down to his body, right? And then you can see like the steps, because when you walk into the apartment, you can go immediately right and then left right there and go up the stairs. But my son died upstairs, like in that foyer area, because it was like a townhouse setup, and there's only two bedrooms and a bathroom right there. And so looks like when they bust the door open, my son went, "Who is that?" and walked out onto the stairway. And then when he realized who it was, he did like this, because he was shot 6 times in the palm of his right hand and 5 times in the palm of his left hand. He was shot all down his arms, his torso, his thighs, his groin, his shins, his feet. My son had a total, it was really more. They just stopped counting at 76. He had a total of like 76 bullet wounds, like to his body. But
We're
if
all,
I but if I wouldn't have, if we wouldn't have hired our own investigator, I would have never known. Like they stood over him, they shot down to his body, like they handcuffed him, they drug him down the stairs. Like, and then if you watch the video that was captured, it lasts for like three. It's like 3 minutes and 34 seconds. That's how long the shooting lasts. The shooting lasts, and then if you watch the shooting, you just see them like lollygagging around outside. Like it's if because remember they dropped the false narrative that it was a shootout. If somebody's shooting at you, wouldn't you retreat? Because when my family and I watched the actual full video footage, a lot of my family is former military or in the military. They started saying, I don't hear nobody shooting back. And they were like, look at him. If somebody's shooting, nobody's retreating, nobody's dodging, nobody's moving out the way. They was like, look how relaxed they are, like the days ago. And they just standing at the door. You follow what I'm saying? If somebody's shooting at you, you're gonna retreat, you're gonna move out the way, you're gonna go for cover. They weren't doing any of that. And so you could tell, like, as they were yelling, they started when they threw the flashbang grenade in, some of them on the outside did like this. So they were waiting on that. They did it before the flashbang grenade went off. They did this. And then it's a lot, I can just kind of go on and on, but to kind of just bring you current to where we are right now, um you know, December, I'm just go with December the 12th. January the 10th of 2018. I my attorney filed, a federal civil suit, against Department of Justice. Um then on actually, so actually at the end of this year, December the 28th of 2018, because remember my son died in 2016. So it's like I've been out here, like I've been everywhere. I do town hall meetings, I do different events, just anywhere I can go and plug in and share my son's story. I'm always there. So every day I'm somewhere, I'm doing something. But on December the 28th, Paul Howard and his staff filed a federal lawsuit as well against the Department of Justice for not releasing the records pertaining to my son's death. So I'll just pause right there for a moment, just in case you have any questions. Then I'll kind of tell you, a little bit more where we are today.
We have about 2 more minutes in the broadcast, so I
Okay.
want to give you an opportunity. I just want to tell you, my heart bleeds. It's like I can't. I weep with you. I cry out. I'm the mother of 2 sons,
Mm-hmm.
and I know I can't. Your pain is unimaginable. So I just want to say that my heart just totally goes out to you for being the strong mama that you are
Thank you
and
so much.
fighting for the dignity of your son and getting justice in a
Right.
system where there has been no justice for our
No
Black boys.
justice, none whatsoever.
So I just want to I'm gonna give you this last 2 minutes because
Okay.
this is you, baby. Just
Okay, thank you. And also too, so like I said, January 16th of 2019 of this year, Paul Howard did subpoena the officers that's responsible for my son's death. He subpoenaed them to come before a grand jury on February the 5th of 2019. That's when finally the Department of Justice responded. They responded on January 28th of 2019, asking Paul Howard to temporarily suspend the subpoenas. They basically stated that Paul Howard needed to comply with the federal terms and policies, basically. So Paul Howard gave them actually until March the 24th to comply. So, we haven't gotten to March the 24th. So actually, right now, we're looking at going before the grand jury in May. And actually, it would be May 7th because that's the next grand jury convene date. So that's where we are right now. And one other thing I would like to add, there was also a mural. I don't know if you know, there was a mural put up for several of the mothers that have lost our sons to police brutality. It has, myself on it. It has Samaria Rice, who is Tamara Rice's mother, Wanda Johnson, who is Oscar Grant, and Miss Gwen Carr, who is Eric Garner's mother. And that's here in Atlanta at 190 Pryor Street, right in downtown Atlanta. So, I just want to, ask everybody to continue to pray for me and my family. Please support my efforts. I haven't, I've been out here I've been out here working, fighting the fight, being a voice for my son, that I've been unable to work because I can't get a job, number one, because I be in the media, the news so much. So I would just like to ask your listeners to please donate to my GoFundMe. It's GoFundMe.com / justice for Jamarion, and that's Jamarion. We're on Twitter and Instagram, Justice for Jamarion as well. And if anyone would like to reach out to me, I'm also at justiceforjamarion@gmail.com. And I'm also on social media too, also Monteria Robinson, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So if anyone would like to instant message me, I'm always, available. If they have any radio, any platforms that I can utilize to share my son's story. And also too, I have some stuff coming up in April. And that's we're looking to do a town hall meeting with some politicians, some politicians. So I'll make you aware of that and give you the information for that, because we are asking the community to come out and support us in that. So we're looking to get some laws passed and get some things changed because it's time. Um, so that's where we are. And I would like to just tell everybody to keep your children covered, because our brown and black children are not safe in the United States of America, unfortunately. And as you all know, one brown or black child is killed every day by police. And it's like I just be wanting people to know it doesn't happen to any. People think, oh, it's those people down there, or it happened to the poor people. You follow what I'm saying? Or it happened to certain classes of people. But no, it could happen to any level or class of people. So I just want people to, continue to pray for me and my family. Thank you so much for letting me use your platform to share my story.
absolutely. And I'm definitely going to have you back. You said April, the town hall. If I could be a part of making sure we spread the word, I'll be there.
Oh, great.
making sure we go live and let people know what's happening with you. We're going to follow you to however long it takes. We're going to follow you. We're going to be a part of this. Give that GoFundMe again. I'm going to put all of that in the feed here as well.
Okay, sure. It's actually I got a little card here. It's can you guys see it? It's GoFundMe.com/justice for Jamarion. And that's JAMARION.
We got you.
Thank you so much. I
We
appreciate that.
are with you through this, and we're going to get justice for Jamarion.
Thank you. Thank you. Not, we will not be silenced. And and it's not an I thing, it's a we thing.
Mm-hmm. It's a we thing. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much for having me. You have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.